Okay, so you've spent, I don't know, countless hours studying textbook English, right?
Yeah.
You've got the grammar down cold.
You know all the rules.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But then you step into a real-world American workplace meeting and someone says, let's touch base later.
Or can you loop me in?
Yeah. And suddenly you know the words, the individual words, but the meaning just evaporates. Poof.
It really does. It feels like everyone else has the secret decoder ring, doesn't it?
Totally. And
Oh,
you're just sitting there smiling, nodding.
trying to look like you're following along.
But inside you're thinking, what did I miss? What memo didn't I get?
It's a very common feeling.
Okay, let's really unpack this then. This is the core problem we're diving into today.
Yeah.
That gap, the gap between the formal English you learned, maybe the slightly stilted
The how do you do?
style English.
Right. And what Americans actually say, and maybe more importantly, what they mean in their day-to-day professional lives.
It's not just the words, it's the subtext.
Yeah.
Exactly. Those idioms, like loop me in, they're everywhere, but they don't make literal sense. You can't just, translate them
It
directly.
really can't. It leads to a lot of confusion.
So our mission here today, it's not just about giving you a list of phrases. It's about handing you that sort of behind-the-scenes pass.
A look at the real culture of communication.
Yeah, the authentic stuff. We want to get into the tone, the cultural assumptions, the rhythm of how people actually talk in American offices. It's way beyond just vocabulary lists.
It's about understanding the unspoken rules, the subtle signals, how relationships actually get built, and how work gets done.
And it's a challenge, right? A very real one.
Oh, incredibly common. And frankly, it can feel quite isolating when you're in that moment. So if you've been there, nodding along, you're definitely not alone.
It's good to hear that, I think.
And understanding this real business English, it's not just about sounding, correct. It's much bigger than that.
How so?
Well, it's about effectiveness, really. It's about building genuine confidence in your interactions. And honestly, it opens doors, real opportunities.
Okay, so connecting better.
Connecting faster, more authentically, building rapport much more easily than you might think, and crucially, avoiding those misinterpretations.
Ah, the misunderstandings. They can add up, can't they?
They absolutely can. Sometimes subtle, sometimes not so subtle, but they can definitely hinder your progress over time.
That makes sense.
And what's really fascinating here, I think, is how even a simple common phrase can be so nuanced.
Meaning,
Well, the same words can sound warm and collaborative in one situation.
like, let's work together on this.
Exactly. But in another context, maybe delivered differently, it could feel, I don't know, a bit pushy or even insincere.
Right, like someone's just saying it because they're supposed to.
Precisely. So a big part of this deep dive is figuring out when to use these phrases, and just as importantly, when not to, and understanding the why behind that.
So it's not about memorizing lines then.
Definitely not. That's sort of the trap, isn't it? That rigid, scripted approach often leaves people feeling stiff, unnatural,
Yeah.
disconnected.
Yeah, you can tell when someone's just reciting something.
Our goal here is something I think much more valuable. It's adaptability.
The adaptability, okay.
We want you to internalize the underlying logic, the cultural currents, the expectations, get them so deeply ingrained that you can just naturally adjust your communication.
Tailor it to the specific situation.
Exactly. To whatever American business setting you find yourself in. Think of this whole discussion as your shortcut.
A shortcut. I like the sound of that.
Yeah, an expedited path to being truly, authentically well-informed. Not just on the words, but on the deeper stuff, the communication culture itself.
So moving beyond just speaking English.
To truly communicating like an American professional, that's the goal.
That distinction is huge. Speaking English versus communicating like an American professional. And that brings us perfectly to our first main section here. The hidden language of American business.
beyond the textbook.
This really gets into that mismatch we were just talking about. That difference between the formal stuff you learned and how things actually function.
Because the textbook image is often quite proper, isn't it?
Very proper. You
Yeah.
imagine people saying, "How do you do?" Or, "May I kindly request the pleasure of your input on this matter?"
Which, while grammatically perfect, can sound, well, a bit odd in a modern American office.
Stiff. Out of touch, maybe?
Yeah, maybe a little. It doesn't quite match the usual vibe, which is often faster paced, more direct, even with the politeness.
And here's where it gets really interesting, maybe even surprising for some listeners. The reality, what you actually hear day to day, it's this blend.
A mix of things.
Yeah, it's professional politeness, for sure,
Mm-hmm.
but mixed with a good amount of casual friendliness and, of course, those idioms.
Ones that aren't in the grammar books.
Exactly. Like, let's touch base later. If you translate that literally, people tapping baseball bases.
Or, loop me in. Are we tying knots? It makes no sense, literally.
None at all. But in the workplace, these phrases are incredibly functional. They're efficient shortcuts, culturally understood signals.
And that's why people struggle, isn't it? Because literal translation just fails completely.
Completely. And leaves you feeling lost or awkward or maybe even hesitant to speak up because you're not sure you're using the right code.
We're not just talking about please find attached here.
No, we're going deeper into how people genuinely connect, collaborate, get things done using this hidden language.
And if we connect this to the bigger picture, it just becomes so clear. Language isn't just words in a line.
It's more than vocabulary.
So much more. It's completely interwoven with the cultural context, right? The tone you project sometimes without even realizing it. And that conversational rhythm, what feels natural in one culture might feel abrupt or rambling in another.
Like the pacing of the back and forth.
Exactly. And the source material really nails this point about nuance. How a phrase can feel warm, collaborative.
Like you're on the same team.
Yes. But then, different context, different delivery maybe, suddenly it feels pushy or insincere.
That's a huge difference in impact from the same words.
It is. Imagine using a really casual, maybe even slangy phrase in a super formal client meeting versus, say, a relaxed brainstorming session with your team.
Okay, yeah, big difference.
The words might be identical, but how they land, how they affect trust, your perceived professionalism, drastically different because the context, the expected tone, it's all changed.
So understanding this cultural layer, it's not just nice to have, it actually impacts your career.
Oh, profoundly. When you really get these linguistic undercurrents, you're not just speaking English anymore. You're speaking, let's call it American business English, fluently.
And that lets you build stronger relationships.
Much stronger. Because you're communicating authentically in a way that resonates. You naturally avoid those little missteps, those cultural uh-ohs that can happen when wires get crossed.
Things you might not even realize you're doing wrong.
Exactly. And maybe the biggest thing, it lets you truly integrate. You move from feeling like maybe an outsider looking in to being a valued, trusted part of the team.
That sense of belonging is huge.
It really is. So this deep dive, it's not just about piling up more words. It's about understanding the system, how it all works on that cultural level so you can adapt naturally.
Building the language skills and the professional identity at the same time.
Precisely. And that's the real shortcut, I think. The shortcut to being genuinely well-informed, not just with facts, but with insights you can actually use right away. Culturally smart insights.
Absolutely. Okay, so we've established why this hidden language is so crucial. Let's shift gears now and focus on the very first place it really comes into play. Crafting stellar first impressions and greetings.
The very beginning of any interaction.
Right, in those first few seconds. Wow, they carry a lot of weight in the American workplace, don't they?
They really do. First impressions are incredibly critical here. They basically set the foundation, the whole tone for whatever relationship follows.
Whether it's a client, a potential boss, a new teammate.
Doesn't matter. In a culture that often moves fast and, let's be honest, sometimes makes quick judgments.
Guilty as charged sometimes, I think we all are.
Right. Those opening moments are your prime real estate to signal confidence, professionalism, and approachability. That last one's key.
It's not just about being polite, like ticking a box.
No, it's way more strategic than that. Greetings are signals. They show you're confident, you're open, you're professional.
And it's interesting that blend you mentioned earlier, it's not always super formal, like in some cultures.
Exactly. American greetings often have this mix, professionalism, absolutely, but also this genuine, approachable friendliness baked in.
Kind of a let's do business, but let's be human about it vibe.
That's a great way to put it. You're expected to be competent and professional, yes, but also personable, engaging, nailing that balance right at the start. That makes a huge difference. That blend is really the secret sauce. If you walk up to an American colleague and say, really stiffly, "Good morning, sir. How do you do?"
Sounds like something from an old movie.
It kind of does. Grammatically fine, but it just sounds dated. Or maybe overly formal, almost creating a little barrier right away.
So what do you hear? What sounds natural?
Much more common, and what sounds warm but still totally professional is something like, "Morning, how's your day going so far?"
Okay, more relaxed.
Yeah, and notice the question. The source calls this small talk disguised as a greeting. It's not really asking for your life story.
Right, just a quick, friendly opening.
Exactly. It opens the door for a brief connection, or for people you already know, it's often even simpler. "Hey, good to see you."
Familiar, but still fine for the office.
Totally appropriate. It builds that rapport without being unprofessional. And if you're networking or new somewhere, the go-to is direct and friendly.
Hi, I don't think we've met yet. I'm your name.
Simple, effective.
Very. Now, here's a crucial point about those questions, like, how's your morning?
Ah, yes, the follow-up question.
It's almost automatic for Americans, but it's not usually an invitation for a detailed report. They don't really want to know about your terrible commute.
Probably not in that exact moment. The expected rhythm is short, upbeat, and reciprocal. Something like, "Good, thanks. How about yours?"
Or, doing well, how are you?
Perfect. Anything much longer can feel like a slight overshare for just a greeting, you know? It can make the other person feel a bit trapped.
I can picture that. Someone asks, how's it going, and gets a 5-minute saga about their cat.
Exactly. Fine, maybe with a close friend, but in a quick office greeting, it just breaks that expected rhythm. It might signal you don't quite get the unspoken rules.
That's a really helpful point about the rhythm and what's expected. And beyond those quick conversational hellos, there are also specific professional phrases that really nail that first impression, especially in slightly more formal settings.
Like starting a meeting or a call.
Exactly. For instance, starting a client call or an interview or even just a planned meeting with colleagues using, "Thanks for taking the time to meet today," that lands really well.
Why is that so effective?
Well, it immediately shows respect for their time, which is, let's face it, a huge deal in American business. Time is money, right? So it sets this positive, appreciative tone right off the bat.
It signals you're considerate, thoughtful.
Precisely. All good things. Another one the source mentions is, "I've heard great things about your work."
Oh, the compliment can be tricky.
It can be, but used right, it's not just flattery. When it's genuine, it's a fantastic bridge. It shows you've done a little homework, you're engaged.
Establishes a positive connection quickly.
Yeah, but the key word there is genuine. Americans often have a pretty good radar for insincerity.
So don't just say it if you don't mean it.
Definitely not. It can backfire badly if it feels fake or like you're just trying to manipulate. Use it when you genuinely admire something or have heard positive feedback. It builds real rapport then.
And we absolutely have to talk about the nonverbal side too. It's just as important, maybe even more so sometimes.
Like smiling.
Yes.
Yeah.
A simple, genuine smile when you greet someone is almost always expected. It signals warmth, openness.
And the handshake, if you're in person.
Still important. Firm, but brief. The source says about 2 to 3 seconds.
Not the bone crusher and not the limp fish either.
Exactly. You want confident and professional, not aggressive or disinterested. Getting that middle ground is key.
And what about video calls? No handshakes there.
Right. So on video, it's about that clear smile
Mm.
and really making eye contact, which means looking at your camera lens, not necessarily at the person's picture on your screen.
Good tip. That shows you're engaged.
It really does. So when you pull it all together, what does this mean for you, our listener? It means greetings are these really dynamic moments.
Opportunities, really.
Big opportunities for connection. They need that balance, professional but warm. And your tone, your words, your body language, they all have to work together to make that crucial first impression count. It really sets the stage for everything else.
That makes perfect sense. And it flows so naturally into our next section. Mastering the art of professional small talk in networking.
Small talk. Sometimes gets a bad rap, doesn't it?
It really does. People dismiss it as just filler,
Mhm.
like meaningless chit-chat before you get down to the real conversation.
But that's a big misconception, especially in the U.S. workplace.
How so?
Here, small talk is actually a vital social skill. It's a primary way people build trust and strengthen relationships. It's not superficial, it's foundational.
Foundational to trust. Interesting.
Yeah, think about it. It's this low stakes way to connect on a human level, find common ground, establish some comfort before you tackle bigger, maybe more sensitive business topics.
So it's like warming up the relationship engine.
That's a great analogy, and often it's actually expected.
Where? Like waiting for a meeting.
Exactly. Conferences, coffee breaks, waiting for everyone to join a call, even just riding the elevator. Those little moments, those quick chats, they seem minor, but they can forge really lasting connections.
It shows you're personable, not just a work robot.
Precisely. It shows you're approachable. So let's break down some common openers you'll often hear at events. So, what brings you to this event?
Nice and open-ended.
Exactly. Perfect for conferences or mixers. It lets the other person share what's relevant to them, their job, their interests, why they came without feeling put on the spot. They get to lead a bit.
Okay, what else? What about just day-to-day office stuff?
A super common one is just, how's your week been so far?
Simple, safe.
Very. It allows space, but doesn't demand deep personal disclosure. Again, the expected answer is usually short, pretty upbeat, and then you usually ask it back.
And people often connect over shared experiences too, right? Like the source mentions.
Absolutely. Asking something like, have you tried the new coffee place down the street? Or, did you see the game last night? Assuming sports are a safe topic.
Or even just the weather, the classic fallback.
Totally. Food, weather, maybe local happenings, general non-controversial current events.
Yeah.
These are safe zones. They show you're engaged with the world around you, the shared environment.
Creates a little camaraderie.
It does. And these seemingly tiny interactions, they build that foundation of rapport. They make you seem approachable. And that approachability, that can absolutely lead to bigger opportunities later on.
It greases the wheels, like you said.
Exactly. Makes every business interaction that follows just a little bit smoother, built on a bit more trust.
It really is powerful, even if it feels small. Now, what about specific networking situations where you're maybe trying to gather a bit more information?
Yeah, the language might shift slightly. Instead of the very direct, maybe slightly abrupt, what do you do?
Which can feel a bit like an interrogation sometimes.
It can. A much better approach, one that shows more genuine interest, is I'd love to learn more about what you do.
Subtle difference, but I see it. More inviting.
Much more. It frames it as you wanting to learn, maybe a mutual exchange, rather than you just classifying them. It fosters a better connection right away.
And then closing out that networking chat, how do you do that gracefully and actually make the connection stick?
Good question. Transitioning is key. A standard, effective phrase is, "It's been great chatting. Can I get your card?"
Signals interest in continuing the relationship.
Exactly. It says, "I enjoyed this. I value this connection." And the source points out exchanging cards, or maybe even more common now, connecting on LinkedIn right then and there.
Oh, yeah, everyone does the LinkedIn thing.
It's very standard practice. Doing it immediately shows you're serious about the connection, that you valued the conversation. It turns that brief chat into something potentially more lasting.
Now, a really crucial cultural point here for you listening.
Hmm.
Keep the small talk light. Keep it positive.
Absolutely critical.
This is not the time or place for heavy stuff. Avoid the big controversial topics. Definitely no politics or religion in a first business chat.
Or deeply personal things like relationship status, health problems, financial issues. Just steer clear.
Why is that so important in the U.S. context?
It's about comfort and building rapport. Those topics can be divisive, make people uncomfortable, and they're generally seen as private matters reserved for much closer personal relationships. Bringing them up too early in a professional setting is a pretty big faux pas.
Got it. Keep it safe, light, positive.
And remember, the real art of small talk, as the source wisely notes, isn't about proving how interesting you are.
It's about making them feel interesting.
Bingo. Active listening is huge here. Ask follow-up questions that show you actually heard what they said. Demonstrate genuine curiosity about their thoughts, their experiences.
Make them feel heard and valued.
When you do that, you build trust and rapport that goes way beyond just the words you're exchanging. It's a seriously powerful, often underestimated professional skill. And that focus on listening, on rapport, leads us right into our next big area: navigating meetings, discussions, and presentations with impact.
Meetings, a staple of American business life.
Definitely. And they're this interesting balancing act, aren't they? On one hand, there's a huge emphasis on efficiency. Get in, get it done, get out.
Time is money again.
Right. But on the other hand, there's also a strong expectation for collaboration and participation. People are generally expected to contribute, to speak up.
So you can't just sit there silently.
Not usually, no. Being too quiet can unintentionally signal that you're disengaged, or maybe lack confidence, or just aren't interested.
But you also don't want to be the person who talks constantly and dominates.
Exactly. That can come across as pushy, maybe arrogant, like you don't value others' input. So finding that sweet spot, contributing effectively without taking over, that's where the right phrases become your best friends.
They help you navigate that balance.
Precisely. They help you participate in a way that feels natural and appropriate within that American cultural context.
Okay, so if you're leading the meeting, how do you kick things off effectively?
A really common, clear, and effective way to start is simply, "Let's get started. Thanks, everyone, for joining."
Simple, direct.
Yep. It signals focus immediately. It respects everyone's time, gets things rolling, sets that productive tone right away.
And if you need to introduce a new topic during the meeting, maybe shift the focus.
A smooth way to do that without just jumping abruptly is, "I'd like to bring up." It's polite, signals your intention clearly.
Okay, now let's talk about a classic. Circle back.
Ah, yes, the famous circle back. Definitely one that confuses people.
What does it actually mean?
It simply means to return to a topic that was mentioned earlier but maybe wasn't fully resolved, or that you need to revisit. You might say, "Before we move on, can we circle back to the budget numbers for a second?"
So it's about staying organized and making sure things don't get dropped.
Exactly. It's a tool for focus and thoroughness. For example, say you're talking about Q3 results and someone starts talking about a Q1 marketing campaign.
Happens all the time.
Right. You could gently steer it back by saying, "That's interesting about Q1, but before we dive into that, can we just circle back and confirm these Q3 projections?"
Polite way to get back on track. Saves time.
It does.
Hey,
One caution, though.
yeah.
Sometimes people use, let's circle back, to kind of avoid answering something difficult right then.
Ah, the indefinite delay tactic.
Yeah. If it feels like that, it can be perceived as evasive. It's meant for genuine revisiting, not permanent deferral. You might also hear, let's revisit this, which is similar, maybe slightly less formal.
Okay, circle back. Got it. Now, what about when you want to contribute an idea? You don't want to sound too pushy.
Right. Collaboration is key. So instead of saying very directly, we must do X, which can sound like an order,
A softer approach.
much better is something like, one approach we could consider is, see that phrasing? We could consider
Yeah, it's inviting.
collaborative.
Exactly. It positions your idea as one option, open for discussion, inviting feedback. It respects that others might have ideas too, much better for dialogue.
And sharing your opinion. How do you do that respectfully?
A great phrase is, from my perspective, or the way I see it is. This allows you to state your view clearly, but without dismissing anyone else's.
Acknowledges it's your perspective, not the only truth. Precisely. It invites respectful disagreement or alternative views. And what about if you're the one who's maybe a bit confused or just want to double-check understanding?
How do you ask for clarification without sounding like you weren't paying attention?
A fantastic, really professional and subtle way is just to make sure I'm on the same page.
Ah, on the same page.
Yeah.
Another classic.
It is. It means I want to confirm my understanding aligns with yours. It's a brilliant, indirect way to say, I might need clarification here. Without putting the blame on yourself or the other person, it focuses on mutual understanding.
Okay, let's really unpack that one for a second. Why is being on the same page so emphasized in American business communication? It seems to come up constantly.
That's a great question. I think it really ties back to core American business values. Efficiency, clarity, and avoiding costly mistakes.
How so?
Well, in a culture that often values speed and individual initiative, if people aren't clearly aligned on goals or roles or what the next steps are,
Things can go off the rails pretty quickly.
exactly, you get wasted effort, duplicated work, people pulling in different directions. Misunderstandings can lead to significant delays or errors, which costs time and money.
So being on the same page isn't just about politeness. It's fundamental to making things work effectively.
Absolutely. It's a bedrock principle for effective collaboration, for productivity, and frankly, for risk management in a fast-moving environment. Clear alignment prevents a lot of problems down the line. Makes total sense. Now, shifting to presentations, especially when you need to be concise, how do these phrases help?
Good point. People's attention spans can be short.
They can. So, starting with something like, here's the big picture, is really helpful.
Gives context first.
Exactly. It signals you're giving an overview before you swamp them with details. Helps them orient themselves. Very much appreciated in American audiences who often want the why and what up front.
And handling questions during or after.
A polished way to respond, even to a challenging question, is, that's a great question. Here's how we're addressing it.
Acknowledges the questioner, sounds proactive.
Right. It buys you a second to think. Frames your response positively as a solution or an approach, and avoids sounding defensive.
Smart. And wrapping up the whole meeting or discussion.
Clarity on action is crucial. So, let's summarize our next steps is essential.
Who does what by when?
Precisely. Leaves no ambiguity, fosters accountability, everyone walks away knowing what's expected. This really raises an important point, doesn't it? How does using this kind of concise, structured language actually lead to better decisions, especially when things are moving fast?
Good question. How does it?
Well, by cutting through the noise, right, these phrases help you get to the core issues quickly. They reduce the mental effort needed for everyone to follow along, and they ensure key actions are clearly defined.
Less confusion, faster alignment.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that efficiency in communication translates directly into quicker, more informed, and usually better decisions. Long, rambling, ambiguous talk. It just slows everything down and increases the chance of error. These phrases are tools for clarity, structure, and ultimately effective collaboration and decision making.
That focus on collaboration, even in potentially tough situations, flows perfectly into our next section: collaborative negotiations and problem-solving strategies.
Right. And this is interesting because negotiation often has this image of being adversarial, like a battle.
Win-lose, right. Someone has to come out on top.
That's the stereotype. But in American business culture, quite often, the goal isn't necessarily to crush the other side. It's more about building a solution that actually works for both parties.
A more collaborative approach.
Very much so. The language used usually reflects that. It tends to be cooperative, solution focused, rather than purely confrontational. The underlying aim is often mutual benefit, maybe even building a long term relationship, not just winning this one deal at any cost.
Because burning bridges isn't good for future business.
Exactly. There's a pragmatism there. So here's where it gets really interesting how the language you choose can literally shift the dynamic.
From conflict to collaboration.
Yes, you can use specific phrases to consciously create an atmosphere where finding creative solutions feels possible rather than just digging into fixed positions. So, what are some of those key phrases for collaboration?
One you hear a lot is, let's find some common ground.
Okay, what's the strategy behind that?
It's smart, psychologically. Before you even get into the areas where you disagree, you actively look for points of agreement.
Establishes a baseline of we're on the same side somehow.
Exactly. It builds a little trust right away, sets a cooperative tone, makes tackling the tougher points feel less like a fight and more like joint problem solving.
Okay, common ground first. Then what? What about suggesting ideas or compromises?
Instead of just stating your proposal, try something like, what if we looked at it from another angle? Or could we explore this possibility?
Keeps things open, shows flexibility.
Right. It signals you're not locked into just one way. You're willing to think creatively. And then there's the absolute classic American business term you need to know. Here's a possible win-win.
Ah, the win-win. We hear that a lot.
You do. And it means exactly what it sounds like. A solution where everybody gets something they value. It's not one side winning at the other's expense.
Why is that concept so prevalent? Is it just about being nice?
Not entirely. It's deeply rooted in American business pragmatism. The belief is that solutions where both sides benefit are more sustainable. They lead to stronger, longer-lasting partnerships, which are ultimately more profitable than maybe one big win followed by a damaged relationship.
Makes sense long term. Can you give an example?
Sure, imagine negotiating a project deadline. Instead of just demanding they finish sooner, which might strain their resources, you could say, okay, getting everything done by Friday looks tough, but here's a possible win-win. What if you deliver phase one by Friday, which meets our immediate need, and we aim for phase two the following week? Does that work for your team's capacity?
Frames it as finding a solution together. Both sides get something.
Exactly. Shared success, not a forced concession. That win-win mindset really shifts the focus to problem solving. Now, what if you need to ask for something more or probe for flexibility, but without sounding demanding?
Phrasing is everything here. Instead of a direct challenge like, is that your best price? Which can feel confrontational.
Try something softer.
Yeah, like, is there any flexibility on that? Or is there any room to move on the timeline? It's polite, invites discussion, doesn't corner them.
Acknowledges their position, but asks if there's leeway.
Precisely. Or to encourage joint problem solving when you seem stuck, instead of just saying, this won't work, try. What would it take to make this work for both of us?
Puts the ball back in the court for collaborative solutions.
Exactly. Shifts from impasse to teamwork.
And when there's a tricky issue, maybe some tension, and you need to address it directly.
Americans often appreciate directness in problem solving, but the tone matters. Saying, let's address this head on, signals you're not trying to avoid it, you're ready to tackle it constructively.
Proactive, solution-oriented.
Very much so. And if you need to acknowledge their concerns while proposing a fix, you might use, I understand your concerns. Here's how we can mitigate them.
Mitigate. That's a good professional word. Means lessen or reduce the problem.
Exactly. Like, I understand your concern about data security. Here's how our encryption protocols mitigate that risk. It sounds thoughtful, strategic, and in those really tense moments, maybe when you have to say no or push back, language choice is absolutely critical then.
We don't want to just slam the door shut.
Right. A blunt, that won't work, can kill the conversation and make the other side defensive. Much better to soften it. You could say something like, that might be challenging given our current constraints. Could we explore alternatives? Or, I see the value in your proposal, but it doesn't quite align with our budget right now. Are there other ways we could approach this?
Respects their idea, but explains the limitation and keeps the door open.
Exactly. Avoids creating a dead end, invites more brainstorming, but still clearly communicates the boundary. And finally, after all the back and forth, when you actually reach an agreement.
Need to lock it down clearly.
Absolutely. A very common and important phrase is, okay, great, let's put that in writing so we're all aligned.
Why is putting it in writing so important?
It protects everyone. It ensures there's crystal clear understanding of what was agreed. No, he said, she said later. It prevents future misunderstandings and serves as a clear record of the outcome. Builds accountability.
Got it. So, pulling this section together, successful negotiation in the U.S. isn't just about what you ask for.
Not at all. It's hugely about how you ask for it, the tone you set. Firm but respectful, collaborative, framing things as shared wins.
Leads to better deals.
Often, yes. And just as importantly, it leads to stronger, more positive business relationships moving forward. It's a real interplay of language, intent, and cultural awareness.
That emphasis on clarity and cementing things leads us perfectly into our final main section. Professional clarity and the art of the perfect close.
How you finish is just as important as how you start.
Totally. That final impression can really stick. How you wrap up a conversation and a meeting, close out a deal. It says a lot about your professionalism.
And it prevents problems later on.
Exactly. A clear, confident ending avoids confusion about what happens next. Americans really value that clarity, that action-oriented language at the end. People want to know, okay, what now?
Who's doing what, by when? Ambiguity at the close can really undermine everything you just accomplished.
So what are some common ways to wrap things up effectively?
A classic is, just to recap.
This Nelsa summary is coming.
Right. It tells everyone, okay, I'm going to quickly summarize the key points and decisions. It's that final check for alignment, making sure everyone heard the same thing before they leave.
Prevents people walking away with different understandings.
Precisely. And then immediately following that, you need to pivot to action. That's where, so our next steps are in.
The action items.
Yes. Who is doing what? By when? Maybe how? This makes responsibilities crystal clear. No guesswork. It fosters that accountability we keep talking about.
And building that reputation for being reliable. How do closings help there?
By being specific about follow-up, especially in writing, but also verbally, saying something like, I'll follow up with you by end of day Tuesday.
Not just I'll follow up soon.
Exactly. That specific commitment by Tuesday shows you're accountable, organized. It builds huge trust because they know they can rely on you. And just to keep the door open politely for future interactions.
Something right.
Looking forward to our next conversation or talk soon. Simple, positive, expresses continued interest. Now think about this. How does being consistently clear in your closings build that reputation for trustworthiness and efficiency over time.
Well, if you always recap clearly, always define next steps, always follow through on your commitments, people just learn they can depend on you.
Exactly. You become known as someone who is organized, reliable, efficient. Those are incredibly valuable assets in any professional environment. It builds your personal brand.
Absolutely. Now, what about closing out those networking conversations specifically?
You want to leave it positive, but maybe not overcommit. A great standard is, "It's been great talking with you. Let's stay in touch."
Friendly keeps the door open generally.
Right. And as we mentioned earlier, following up with, "I'll connect with you on LinkedIn," is very common and practical.
Makes the connection concrete, shows real interest.
It does. It turns a casual chat into a network connection you can potentially leverage later. It's an expected part of the networking ritual now.
Okay, and what about ending those tougher meetings? Maybe things got a bit tense or you didn't reach full agreement.
Diplomacy is key there. Even if it was difficult, ending with, "I appreciate your time and input today," is a really professional move.
Acknowledges their effort, even amidst disagreement.
Exactly. It shows respect for the process and the people involved, even if the outcome wasn't ideal. It helps maintain the overall relationship, focusing on long-term collaboration despite bumps in the road, shows maturity. And then just for general, everyday closings, keeping it upbeat.
Yeah, how do you just end things positively?
Simple phrases work well. All right, I think we're all set here. Signals completion feels positive. Or the very common, "Thanks, everyone. Have a great rest of your day."
Adds that nice human touch.
It does. So the real art of the close, when you boil it down, is finding that balance again. Professionalism and approachability.
Clear on the details, confident in the follow-through.
And leaving people feeling comfortable, respected, and ideally looking forward to interacting with you again. These closings, they aren't just throwaway lines. They're intentional, polished, warm. They reinforce everything. Which brings up a final thought for this section. How do these kinds of closings actually contribute to long-term success, beyond just finishing one meeting well?
Well, like you said about reputation.
Right. They build trust consistently. They foster stronger networks because people enjoy interacting with you. They solidify relationships. And those things, trust, networks, relationships, they're the absolute foundation of any successful, sustainable career, aren't they? They open doors that individual transactions alone never could.
So let's bring this all together then. What we've really been unpacking in this deep dive is that mastering American Business English isn't about memorizing some rigid formal dictionary.
Not at all.
It's truly about understanding the real language, the phrases people actually use day in, day out. And more than that, getting the feel for them, the tone, the cultural baggage they carry, the real intention behind the words.
From those first greetings that mix warmth and professionalism,
Right, to small talk that's actually about building trust.
to meeting phrases that keep things clear and ensure everyone's on the same page.
Every choice sends a message, doesn't it?
Yeah.
About who you are professionally.
Absolutely. And we've seen this pattern. American communication often aims to be direct, yes, but also friendly, concise, efficient, but ideally not cold or abrupt.
Think about those key phrases we hit on. Let's circle back. Let's find common ground. What's a possible win-win?
They're not just instructions, they're signals.
Signals of what? Collaboration.
Openness. Collaboration, openness, a focus on solutions, a commitment to moving things forward efficiently, and layered on top of the words, you have those crucial, softer skills.
Like really listening.
Active listening, showing genuine interest, using supportive body language, whether that's the handshake or just making eye contact through the camera. It's the whole package.
It really is a holistic thing.
Exactly. And, knowledge is great, but it's most valuable when you actually understand it and then apply it consistently.
So the key skill isn't just knowing the phrases.
It's adaptability. That's the real takeaway. Knowing instinctively when to use that warm, casual greeting versus the more formal opening, knowing how to tailor your closing based on whether it was a quick chat or a formal negotiation.
Like knowing to say, "Morning, how's it going?" to a colleague you see every day.
But opening that big client pitch with a clear, "Thanks for taking the time to meet today," that subtle shift, that adjustment based on context, that's mastery.
So practical advice then for everyone listening.
Don't just file these phrases away in your head. Use them. Actively, consciously practice them.
In real life.
Yes, in your actual meetings, in
Yeah.
your emails, at networking things, even just casual chats. Try them out. And then, this is important, pay attention.
To how people react?
Exactly. How do native speakers respond? What phrases do they use in similar situations? Notice their rhythm, how they make suggestions, how they wrap things up. And then consciously try to incorporate those authentic patterns into your own style.
So it becomes natural over time.
Precisely. The more you use them, the more comfortable and natural you'll feel, the more confident you'll sound.
Yeah.
And that confidence, it's magnetic. It opens doors.
It's a better communication, sure, but also
To stronger relationships, absolutely. To bigger opportunities, to a smoother, more successful, and frankly, more integrated and enjoyable career path within the American workplace.
So what does all this really mean for you listening right now? It means start today. Take one or two things we talked about and try them out.
Don't wait.
No. Every single conversation, the quick hello, the team huddle, the client, call it a chance. A chance to make an impression. Make it a good one.
Yeah.
A professional one. Think about how these small shifts, these little adjustments in language and tone, how they can add up.
Compound over time.
Exactly. They can literally transform not just how effectively you communicate, but how people perceive you, your professional identity. So the final thought to leave you with is this. What new doors might just swing open for you? What unexpected opportunities might arise simply because you changed a few words, refined your approach, and started communicating with more cultural fluency? Start making every conversation count.